Welcome to Lakers News Fan Report, your home for exclusive Lakers coverage, breaking news, and the kind of in-depth analysis that treats you like the informed fan you are. I'm bringing you the latest updates, strategic insights, and the stories that shape our franchise. And today, I need to talk about something that's been unfolding across the league that has massive implications for how we evaluate our own front office decisions. Stick with me because what I'm about to break down will change how you think about roster construction, player evaluation, and why sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones. There are moments in franchise history that define whether an organization truly understands championship DNA. Decisions that feel controversial in the moment but reveal their wisdom with time. Moves that separate contenders from pretenders, and front offices that understand sustainable success from those chasing short-term fixes. The Lakers have always been an organization that makes bold decisions, sometimes unpopular ones, and right now we're watching one of those decisions play out in real time across the Western Conference in a way that should make every single Lakers fan grateful for the leadership we have in place. Let me take you back to December of last year. The Lakers made a move that sent shockwaves through the fan base, a trade that had people questioning the direction of the franchise, debating the wisdom of our front office, and wondering if we'd just made a massive mistake. We sent out a player who had been with us, contributed to a conference finals run, and was a familiar face in purple and gold. The return was Dorian Finney-Smith, a move that prioritized defensive versatility and three-point shooting over pure playmaking. Some fans loved it, others hated it. But what nobody could have predicted was just how vindicated that decision would look less than a year later. I'm talking about Dangelo Russell, and if you've been paying attention to what's happening in Dallas right now, you understand exactly why I'm bringing this up. Because what's unfolding with the Mavericks isn't just a story about one player struggling, it's a masterclass in why the Lakers made the right call at the right time, and why looking back with the benefit of hindsight should make us all appreciate the strategic thinking that went into that December trade. Let me lay out what's actually happening in Dallas, because the numbers are staggering and they tell a story that Lakers fans need to understand. Dangelo Russell signed with the Mavericks in the offseason with expectations that he'd be their primary playmaker, the guy who could facilitate their offense and provide the kind of scoring punch they desperately needed. Dallas was betting that a change of scenery would unlock something in D'Lo, that he'd transform into the consistent starting point guard they envisioned. That bet has failed spectacularly. Through the first 15 games of this season, Russell is averaging just 11.9 points per game. Let that sink in for a moment. This is a player who was once an all-star, someone who averaged over 18 points per game during his second stint with the Lakers, and he's now barely cracking double digits. But it gets worse. He's playing only 22 minutes per game, the lowest of his entire career. He's coming off the bench. He's shooting 38% from the field, which is catastrophically bad for a guard who needs to be a scoring threat to justify his minutes. And his three-point shooting, the one area where he's supposed to provide value as a floor spacer, is at 22.7%. That's not just bad, that's historically terrible for a player with his usage rate. The advanced metrics paint an even grimmer picture. Russell currently has a negative value over replacement player, meaning the Mavericks would literally be better off with a minimum contract player in his spot. His win shares per 48 minutes are negative, indicating that when he's on the court, Dallas is actively worse. These aren't just disappointing numbers for a veteran player. They're franchise-killing metrics for a team that's supposed to be competitive. And here's the kicker. Dallas is paying luxury tax money for this production. They're over the first apron with a roster that's headed toward lottery territory, and Dangelo Russell is a significant part of why their season has cratered. Now, let me connect this back to the Lakers and why our front office deserves enormous credit for seeing this coming. When we traded Russell in December, there was a segment of the fan base that questioned the move. They pointed to his conference finals performance in 2023, where he hit some big shots and provided playmaking when we needed it. They argued that we should give him more time, that his defensive limitations could be schemed around, that his shooting would eventually stabilize. But the Lakers front office, Rob Pelinka and his team, they saw something that casual observers missed. They recognized that Russell's inconsistencies weren't just variants, they were fundamental limitations that would prevent us from achieving championship-level success. Think about what the Lakers understood that Dallas apparently didn't. First, Russell has always been a player whose impact is heavily dependent on offensive rhythm and role definition. When he's the primary ball handler with the green light to create, he can put up numbers. But in playoff settings, against elite defenses that take away his preferred actions and force him into secondary roles, his value plummets. The Lakers experienced this firsthand. After that conference finals run, Russell struggled mightily in subsequent playoff series. His defensive liabilities became unmanageable against elite offensive teams, and his shooting consistency evaporated when games got tight. Second, the Lakers recognized the age curve issue. Russell turned 30 in February, and for guards who rely on creating separation with their first step and shooting off the dribble, 30 is often when decline begins. The Lakers weren't going to pay premium money for declining production, and they certainly weren't going to sacrifice defensive integrity waiting for Russell to become something he'd never been. Dallas apparently missed this memo, assuming they could rehabilitate his value and get prime years from a player whose best basketball was already behind him. Third, and this is crucial, the Lakers understood roster construction in a way Dallas clearly doesn't. We needed more defensive versatility and reliable three-point shooting from players who don't need the ball in their hands to impact winning. Dorian Finney-Smith provides exactly that. He's a legitimate wing defender who can guard multiple positions. He shoots the three at a respectable clip, and he doesn't need plays drawn up for him to be effective. That's championship-level role-player production, and it's infinitely more valuable than inconsistent scoring from a defensive liability. Let me give you some context about Russell's career trajectory that makes the Lakers' decision even more impressive. This is a player who's been traded 5 times in his NBA career. 5 times. The Lakers drafted him with the 2nd overall pick in 2015, sent him to Brooklyn just 2 years later, and then brought him back in 2023, only to trade him again in December of 2024. When a player gets moved that many times, it's not bad luck, it's a pattern. Organizations keep hoping they can unlock something that isn't there, and they keep realizing the same limitations that forced the previous team to move on. Brooklyn gave up on him despite him making the All-Star team there. Minnesota moved him after just 1 season. Golden State didn't want to keep him past the trade deadline. The Lakers traded him twice. And now Dallas is desperately trying to figure out how to move him before the February 5th trade deadline. That's not a player with untapped potential. That's a player whose limitations have been thoroughly exposed by multiple organizations, and the Lakers were smart enough to get out before his value completely evaporated. Now here's where this gets really interesting for us as Lakers fans looking forward. The trade deadline is approaching, and Dallas is going to be active in trying to unload Russell's contract. They're over the luxury tax, they're headed toward the lottery, and they need to get younger and recoup draft capital. The Mavericks are reportedly shifting their entire timeline to building around future draft picks, which means they're trying to package Russell in larger deals just to get teams to take on his salary. But here's the critical point. The Los Angeles Lakers will not be involved in any Dangelo Russell discussions. That ship has sailed, burned, and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. I want to be crystal clear about this because I know there are fans who might wonder if there's any scenario where we bring him back. There isn't. The Lakers made their decision, we've moved forward, and we're a better team for it. Rob Pelinka isn't going to revisit a failed experiment just because Russell is available at a discount. We learned our lessons, we made the tough call, and now we're focused on building a roster that can actually compete for championships, not collecting reclamation projects with documented limitations. Let's talk about what this means for our roster construction moving forward. The Lakers are going to be active before the trade deadline, but we're targeting players who fit our championship timeline and address our actual needs. We need perimeter defense, we need reliable shooting from players who can play within a system, and we need veterans who understand their role and execute it consistently. Dangelo Russell provides none of those things, and frankly, at this stage of his career with the production he's showing in Dallas, he wouldn't crack our rotation, even if he were available. The broader lesson here is about organizational philosophy and why the Lakers remain a destination for players who want to win. We're not a franchise that throws good money after bad. We're not a team that keeps making the same mistakes, hoping for different results. When the front office identifies that a player isn't the right fit, they act decisively. That's how you maintain championship standards. That's how you avoid the kind of spiral Dallas is experiencing, where you're paying luxury tax money for lottery-bound production while trying to figure out how to dig yourself out of roster purgatory. I also want to address the elephant in the room. Some Lakers fans have been enjoying the schadenfreude of watching Russell struggle in Dallas. I get it. There's a certain satisfaction in seeing a decision validated so thoroughly and so quickly. But I think there's a more mature way to process this. We should be grateful that our front office had the wisdom to move on when they did. We should appreciate that we're not the franchise dealing with this problem. And we should focus on the fact that the Dorian Finney-Smith acquisition has worked out exactly as planned, giving us the kind of versatile defender and reliable shooter that actually moves the needle in playoff basketball. Let me give you some perspective on how different our trajectory is compared to Dallas right now. The Lakers are positioned to make meaningful moves at the deadline to address specific needs. We have cap flexibility, we have trade assets, and we have a clear vision of what type of players fit our championship window. Dallas is scrambling to find anyone who will take on salary just to stop the bleeding and lower their luxury tax bill. We're building, they're damage controlling. We're advancing, they're regressing. That difference in organizational trajectory exists in large part because we made the hard decision to move on from Dangelo Russell when we did. Looking ahead to the rest of this season and beyond, I'm optimistic about where the Lakers are headed. We've got a front office that's willing to make tough decisions based on what actually wins championships, not what makes fans temporarily happy. We've got a roster that's being constructed with defensive versatility and shooting in mind, not just collecting names that sound good on paper. And we've got a clear-eyed assessment of player value that doesn't get swayed by nostalgia or past accomplishments. The Dangelo Russell situation in Dallas is unfolding exactly as the Lakers anticipated it would. A player with documented limitations approaching 30, with declining athletic ability and persistent defensive issues, is cratering on a team that desperately needs him to be something he's not. Meanwhile, the Lakers have moved forward with players who fit our system, understand their roles, and contribute to winning basketball. That's not lucky. That's smart management. I want to hear from you now because this is the kind of decision that reveals how we think about roster construction. Do you agree that the Lakers made the right call trading Dangelo Russell when they did? Are you satisfied with how the Dorian Finney-Smith addition has worked out? And looking forward, what kind of players do you want to see the Lakers target at the trade deadline? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I want to know how you're viewing this situation now that we have the benefit of watching it play out. Before you go, make sure you're subscribed to Lakers News Fan Report and hit that notification bell so you never miss breaking news, trade analysis, or strategic insights about our Los Angeles Lakers. Like this video if you appreciate the kind of in-depth analysis that respects your intelligence as a fan, share it with your fellow Lakers faithful, and stick around because I've got more deadline coverage coming that you won't want to miss. This is your home for real Lakers journalism, thoughtful analysis, and the kind of content that treats you like the knowledgeable fan you are. Let's keep this conversation going, and I'll see you in the next one. Go, Lakers!